You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 99. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from Educalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We are so excited to have you here with us today. We have an awesome interview lined up for you today with Jenelle Gagné. Jenelle is a grade 4-5 teacher and a mom of 2, and she has been practicing mindfulness in her classroom using Educalm Classroom. So if you're thinking of starting a mindfulness practice in your classroom and you're not sure exactly how to fit it into your day, this interview is going to really help you out and give you lots of tips and tricks that Jenelle has been using for ideas of how to integrate this into your day. And if you're already using Educalm Classroom, you're already doing a mindfulness practice, then maybe you'll get some tips that new ways that maybe you haven't thought of using the content in Educalm Classroom that you can integrate into your teaching. So today, Jenelle is going to tell us how she uses Educalm Classroom, so what that routine looks like, and how she finds the time to integrate social emotional learning by linking Educalm Classroom lessons to her language and health units. And she tells us how she has sort of adapted or used the Educalm Classroom growth mindset units in her own way. So she kind of did this really cool activity as a spin-off to what the students were learning in the growth mindset units that I think you'll probably want to snatch up and use in your own classroom. So let's get to this interview. But before we get started, we are super excited to share this week's sponsor. Breathe for Change is a movement to enhance the health and well-being of teachers, students, and entire school communities. They offer the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training specifically for educators. And they partner with schools, districts, and organizations to enhance community-wide well-being. Their work is absolutely life-changing. Breathe for Change applications for 2020 are now open. Through the training, you'll be equipped and empowered to enhance your own well-being and to integrate mindfulness and social emotional learning into your classroom and community. So upon graduating their flagship training, you'll be eligible to receive 2 certifications: the internationally recognized Yoga Alliance 200-hour yoga teacher certification and Breathe for Change's Wellness Champion certification. If you're committed to using wellness as a vehicle for social change and want to join an incredible community of thousands of like-minded leaders, then join the Breathe for Change movement. Check out their trainings at www.breatheforchange.com/balanced. Again, that's www.breatheforchange.com/balanced. All right, let's get into this week's interview with Jenelle. Hello there, Jenelle. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is a first podcasting.
Awesome. So can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Jenelle. I teach the 4th, 5th grade-ish. I've kind of done a combination. I've been a teacher for about 8 years. I'm also married to my husband, Matt, and I have 2 kids. So I'm actually currently on mat leave with my little girl, Blake. She's almost 9 months. And then I have a little boy, Easton, who is just about 3.5. So right now I'm actually not in the classroom, but there's parts of my day that I miss it a little bit, but I'm also loving being at home.
That sounds nice. So, Jenelle, you used Educalm Classroom in your classroom, and I got the opportunity to pop into your classroom and see how you were using it, and we were excited to have you on the show to share how you've been using this resource. So, could you tell us what does mindfulness look like in your classroom using Educalm Classroom?
So, mindfulness starts pretty much the moment the morning begins. I always like to have a little bit of time for my students to just socialize And after morning announcements and the national anthem, we always start our morning with an Educalm, mindfulness, guided meditation. And so you want me to just go into the routine of all of that?
Yeah, that'd be
right?
great.
So every single morning, without question, the students, after they've, had a moment to chit chat and things like that, they know that our routine is mindfulness. I kind of let the students lead how they prefer to go about that. It's always been that we shut off the lights. So I always have my Educalm ready to go on my computer in my favorites. And the kids just begin, they can sit wherever they would like, but we don't really talk much beforehand. So we just say, okay, this is our time to get ready for our school day. They pick a spot in the class. Some choose to sit at their spot. Some choose to sit on the floor. Some choose to sit near me. I choose different spots in the class depending on how I'm feeling. And then we play the 3-minute guided mindfulness. And I kind of give them a moment so they follow along with whatever. It's your voice. We do it in English. I'm in a bilingual French immersion classroom, but I find the students are more comfortable in English. And so we do all of our mindfulness practice in English. And so they listen to the recording. And then I always kind of give them a moment at the end when it's all said and done with the lights still off to just pause. And we regroup once I feel like the class is ready. Sometimes that's 30 seconds later. Sometimes it can be 2 minutes. But in grade 4, I've tried when we want to do our sharing time after to be in a circle and I just found that put them a little bit too on the spot. And I just got better conversations when they went back to their desk, to be quite honest. They sit in table groups. I think grade 4 and 5, they're starting to kind of, it's a lot of worry, what their peers think. And I think, I don't know, it just seemed like when they were in a circle, they were put on the spot. Maybe they felt like they had to share, where it was more natural for them to be in their table groups and they could just raise their hand as they went. So after the practice, I just wait till everybody returns to their spot. As they get more comfortable with it, you can tell they really take into account when they're ready. And then we turn on the lights. And then depending on the module that we listen to, we have discussions from there.
That's great.
I'm rambling.
We always know that was really helpful. I can definitely picture exactly what that looks like in your classroom. And I love hearing this from you because, we give suggestions in Educalm Classroom. We actually have a video that teaches teachers exactly how to set this practice up in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And we always love hearing, where you start with our suggestions and then you make adjustments based on your group and what works for you. So we suggest that you choose where your students are going to sit. But what you've seen is that that group of students was ready to choose their spot in the classroom rather than you having to tell them where to sit, which is great. You've adjusted for what works for you. And then we also...
And I think it's your style, right? Of teaching and what your students are used to in your classroom. My students are used to choosing where they instruction time is either at the carpet or at their desk. But then once it comes down to their own work, they're used to picking where they're sitting. So that worked for me too, right? It's just, that's the norm in my classroom.
Perfect. I love that. And then we always suggest having a time for connection and reflection and sharing after the guided audio. And we suggest starting off by sitting in a circle. So you started that way and then you saw, this isn't quite working for this group. So you adjusted and were flexible with it to figure out what works for you. So that's great. We always say, start with this base of what we suggest. And then you're the professional, your students, adjust it for what works for you. So that's great.
Yeah.
So, you said that you use the audios every day. So this is part of your morning every day. And then you have that little pause after the audio for students to kind of reflect on their own. And then you have a discussion. How else do you use Educalm Classroom in your classroom?
So the discussions I think are also very interesting because I think they've guided which modules we've used and sort of how else I want to use Educalm Classroom. So there's printables for each module. And so it's been interesting to see that certain modules kind of speak to the students more than others. There's like the 5 senses, what you hear, what you see, what you feel, and those mindfulness. And I think in grade 4, they're a great intro and they're a great tool, but to do like the booklet wasn't really working, or posters weren't really needed. And then our deepest discussions really came from the growth mindset units or modules, and then also the gratitude, just I think depending on the age of the kids and things like that. So growth mindset has been sort of the biggest, I would say, modules. You have 2, right? It's been a while since I've been on the
there's
website.
2 of them. Yeah. And on our new website, we've turned over to calling them units, because we've
units.
organized.
Okay, I know.
Yeah.
I was like trying to search. I'm like, what do you call them? Because I would call them units or themes, or I don't know. But
we've kind of changed how we've organized the units so that, just like you've said, you can pick and choose the units that are working for you and your group, and there's certain ones that you're going to want to dive really deep into. So they're no longer in a specific order. Once you do the introduction to mindfulness, then you can choose the units based on whatever theme you're doing in your classroom at the time or what you think is needed.
Right.
So then you jumped into the growth mindset units. There's 2 of them and we could probably add more. We just feel that there's so much to be said about growth mindset. Now, when I was in your classroom, I noticed that growth mindset was a big theme for you. You had this great billboard with this poster that I thought was amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about what growth mindset looked like as you were teaching this to your students?
So I just noticed that growth mindset was something that I really was passionate about and bought into, and just saw the need for discussion even before Educalm, so that really it just paired up really nice. One resource that I kind of based my growth mindset discussions and with my students is Class Dojo. I don't know if you're familiar with Class Dojo.
Yeah.
And so if you go online, classdojo.com, there's in Big Ideas, there's some resources, and there's this video that I don't know, one of my colleagues I think maybe stumbled across, and it's 5 like short little videos on growth mindset, and it's this little cute monster that the kids love to watch, and who's talking about going into the dip. So the dip is when you're feeling like really excited about trying something new, and then it doesn't come very easy to you, and then you start thinking, I can't do it. And the whole big idea of growth mindset is, you can't, yet, the idea of you can't do something yet. And it talks about going into the dip, and the dip is where it's like the self-doubt, and you're questioning yourself, and you're feeling all these emotions that are maybe getting in the way of your learning, or you're taking the risk to do something. And so anyways, long story short, this awesome little monster talked about the dip. So then I just started drawing this little dip being like this little hole. And then, so on a side note, we had probably been doing guided mindfulness practices for for sure a month and a half before we went into growth mindset. And it was like this aha moment for me, because I'm drawing this dip. So this little monster on my whiteboard is in a hole, and he's got little word bubbles saying, he's starting to think like, oh, this is maybe too hard. Maybe I shouldn't try this. And then this hill getting out of the dip, we start talking about strategies to help us think, right here is where I'm at now, but I can get there. How can I do it? And all these strategies for this positive mindset, this growth mindset, came out of a lot of strategies that they had learned in their guided mindfulness practices. So all of a sudden and so I started writing all these strategies, they had done the 5-finger breathing with Educalm. They had learned all the different breathing strategies, the shapes, the belly balloon breathing, which I think is their favorite, the sun breathing. So all of a sudden they have those strategies, and even positive thinking, which went with, the gratitude that we had already discussed. And so all of a sudden it was like this aha moment for them. I think, especially grade 4, I think they start to worry about what their peers think and things like that. And, oh, he's having an easier time with something. So this growth mindset, I think, is like key for this age, for just to develop more like self-awareness and things like that. So it just sort of paired really nicely with the Educalm unit. And anyways, this like cute little drawing that I did quickly on the board, one of my students said, "Ma'am, I think that would be great to always have in the class." And so then I had to take a picture, and then I kind of drew it up on my own and then posted it on one of our bulletin boards. So it was there for the class. But it was really just all of their strategies that they came up with to have a growth mindset. And, right, I think it's your quote from the unit that I had printed, the Educalm resource of, "Where I am right now is perfect. I am learning new things every day." So that quote is with the poster in my classroom. And it was just really neat that as we did more mindfulness and more guided meditations and acquired more strategies on how to be more self-aware of how we're feeling and not fall in that dip, we would just add to the poster. So I think by the time I left in March, there was like 25 ideas of things they could do to get out of that dip, out of that, I'm drawing a blank, growth mindset, or what's the other one?
Fixed mindset.
Thank you. I want to say growth mindset. Yeah. So how to get out of that fixed mindset. But a lot of their strategies, most of their strategies really did come from the guided mindfulness, or things that they weren't realizing they were already doing, going to take a walk or get some water, just things to regroup. Mm-hmm. That in itself are strategies that I think they were proud to realize, hey, I do that already. So
that's great. I love that it was something that you created alongside your students. And that's so cool to see that they had been really absorbing these tools that they'd been learning from the Educalm guided audios, and saw and recognized like, hey, this is something that I can use in difficult situations when I'm feeling discouraged. So that's really cool.
And I think the best, like just getting back to like the discussions, I didn't really touch too much on it, but I think the key was, I feel like I had to open up a little bit more and be a little bit more, I think in other years I maybe wouldn't have opened up to my students of my, when I had a fixed mindset or when I felt big emotions. And the more I would talk to them, and I think they liked my little stories of a toddler dealing with a spilt smoothie on my microfiber couch right before work or things like that. But so I think when I got down to their level and just said, hey, like I feel these big emotions too, and this is what I did to get out of it, or I was having issues. Do you have suggestions on what I could have done differently or things like that? I feel like that's when it really built like the classroom unity that I was looking for, just starting off.
I love that you mentioned
had to put myself out there more
Yes.
than maybe I wouldn't have taken the time to talk to them about that in the mornings necessarily, right?
Thank you for sharing that. And that actually just kind of made a connection for me where I've just kind of put two and two together. We've had so many teachers using Educalm Classroom that have actually said variations of what you just said, is that during, our sharing after doing the mindfulness practice, I feel like I've opened up to my students more than ever before and felt comfortable not being this perfect version of myself all the time and being honest and open with them. And that's created such a strong bond and allowed you to.
And you don't realize you need it. Like all of a sudden it's like, when you vent to a friend, it's like, I'm not venting to my 22, 9 and 10-year-olds, but you're just sort of getting it up to regroup and start your day too, right? Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's crazy what they come up with of suggestions or cute little stories or it just builds off that conversation. So rather than your morning starting off quick and it's not just like a 5-minute guided practice and then you turn off the computer and you take out your workbooks. It's like probably a 15 to half an hour conversation. Yeah. And I think that builds your classroom community a lot more And I think, if you can, it's so much more valuable to me than just opening up a book. And it's crazy what they come up with or what they want to share or things like that. And for those kids that are really, really anxious, I found like they always know what our morning will look like.
Right.
So no matter when they're coming into school, they always know if I'm there, what the first 45 minutes of our day, half an hour of our day will look like, which I think is a big deal.
Yes.
It makes a difference.
That
sure.
Consistency definitely removes a lot of the anxiousness that students feel with not knowing what's coming next. So when you said that sometimes you'll share for like 30 minutes with your students, I can hear teachers saying, I don't have time for that. So I'd love to know your perspective on how is that 30 minutes worth it for you when there's so many academic outcomes to cover?
Definitely. And on top of it, I'm doing it in English, which is a French immersion school, which I can hear maybe those comments as well. The bottom line is if I start the day as a unit in a calm way and I'm calm, then my class is a unit and my class is calm for the day. And so I know firsthand those moments where I feel like I don't have the time and we've skipped it. For example, picture day, we were the first class to go. I just thought, okay, well, we've already done 45 minutes of picture day. I can't put another half an hour. Then it's already going to be, first recess. The first thing the kids did when they came in was, "Ma'am, you forgot your mindfulness practice." They wouldn't skip it. So the fact that to me they were asking for it meant that it was well needed. But at the end of the day, rather than having to bring them back into transition upon transition, I just find that it starts my day calm. I'm calm, they're calm, we're a class unit. The rest is smooth sailing. I don't feel like I missed any outcomes. I feel like they're raring to go. I feel like they have a better bond. I feel like when it comes to working, they're a unit. So I don't have crazy amounts of classroom management. They can work with whatever partner they want or I put them with. I feel like there's not that much for me to say because I didn't feel like, I just felt like my class was smoother.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've bought in. So if you're not buying in, then you could maybe see the little, you could maybe doubt it or maybe not be worth it to your time. But I've bought in that a mindfulness makes a huge difference to my students. So I'm willing to give up that half an hour in the mornings. And it's not always half an hour. Sometimes it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can tell some topics, some units speak more to the kids than others. But you would be doing health anyways, where you should be, this is part of my health. On my report card, my comment was about mindfulness for health. It wasn't really, and I took from the curriculum as well, but it was about mindfulness practices and self-regulation and self-awareness of emotions. And so it went hand in hand.
That's great. So you're tying it into your regular outcomes, but also, as you said, you haven't missed any outcomes by doing this. And a lot of teachers tell us that they actually get way more done when they take even 30 minutes a day. It varies. Like you said, some days it's 10 minutes, some days it's 30 minutes. Yeah. That's what Josiane and I saw in our classroom too. Some days it would just be students were ready to learn that morning. There wasn't much drama going on. And then other days they just needed that extra time to connect and to talk. Yeah. And
I feel like when I'm more calm, I'm more efficient in my day. I even feel like just in this routine, I feel like I get more, I'm more in the zone and I get more accomplished during the day and I'm able, to be more productive and I'm not staying late. I just feel like my mindset is just different.
That's great.
I don't need the break at recess. You know what I mean? To just I feel like I'm more in tune with how I'm feeling and it goes a long way.
So before you started Educalm Classroom, did you have your own personal mindfulness practice?
I don't know if I would say yes. I think I was getting into it kind of at the same time. It probably helps that Josiane was my colleague, and
Yeah.
we would talk about it and things like that. I didn't have like a meditation practice that I did at home or anything like that, but it all kind of happened at once. I think you both have read like the Whole Brain Child book.
Yes. Super good. Highly recommend that one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's probably, I'm rereading it now that I'm like dealing with a toddler and different emotions that I dealt with like with a baby. And now that I'm not at school, my mindset's shifting a little bit to how to deal with 3-year-old emotions. But I think it all just kind of came together, and I would recognize I needed these like pauses in my day, but I didn't have a routine until I did mindfulness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how has Educalm classroom, doing that in your classroom, how has that extended to your personal life and maybe even your home life?
So, well, first of all, I think just doing it in my classroom, I've become more calm. I always loved my job. I love it. I miss it, even being on mat leave. But it allowed me to really like focus at work. I was happy. I had less fires to put out in the day. I felt like everything went a bit smoother. You walk into my class, it was calm. I was more efficient, therefore, picking up my little boy. I wasn't staying, more than half an hour after school. Like there's always those random days or meetings or things like that. But on a regular basis, where I maybe would have stayed an hour because I would have needed 15 minutes after school to just like debrief, like to just, I don't know, grab a water. Because I just felt like my day was so chaotic. So I feel like even for my home life, starting with school, it's given me more time after school to just, get home throughout the day. Also just recognizing my emotions, like with my family, with my husband, with my son, now with my little girl. I think I'm more in check with how I'm feeling. And it's crazy, but it's just without even realizing, right? Like it just becomes a part of who you are. It's really cute. My son, he's 3, and we haven't, I guess I really could, but we haven't really done the like guided mindfulness with Educalm, but I take bits and pieces, and definitely I'm noticing him just in the last little while needing help regulating his emotions. I think he's starting to feel them on a different level now. But it's interesting on his own when he's losing control a bit. We would say like, okay, can you take a deep breath? Or you hold out your fingers and you get them to like blow out the candles when they're really little, because it's like, they don't know how. Yeah. So you put up like 3 fingers. It's like, can you blow out 1 candle? Then you put your finger down and things like that, which I think I would maybe even use that strategy in the classroom now.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a new one. You guys can make a post or something.
Yeah.
But I just remember Matt and my husband, looking at ourselves one day, and like he was just getting mad, and he just like stopped dead in his tracks, and he just started taking deep breaths, and we're like, oh my gosh, like. And he was like 2, probably.
Wow.
Yeah, like we would do the 5-finger breathing or some of the more fun ones, but it's almost just become this thing where he will catch himself and do it himself, which is like a really neat thing to see. And I think my husband's a teacher as well, a gym teacher, a phys ed teacher. Sorry, he'd get mad if I said gym. He teaches in a gym. He's a physical education teacher. And so we've had lots of conversations, I think a lot more of just like my observations on how mindfulness, what I noticed in the classroom, what has worked. He can't do it on the same type of level as me, but just buying into that kids sometimes just need a minute and they don't have the strategies to self-regulate, and how can we help them? So even just, I think in his professional practice, I think as a whole, we recognize our emotions and we have better strategies to deal with them. I think sometimes life just goes fast.
Yes.
You don't have, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like, it's just this like whirlwind.
Totally.
parenting or teaching, that you're like, how do I feel? And that's the difference. I've stopped in my day, doesn't matter what time of day, to be like, okay, how am I feeling? Those check-ins.
I love that it's become a ripple effect that, you decided to buy in, and it's affecting your classroom, your professional life, your personal life, your family life, and it's even creating a ripple effect to your husband. That's really awesome.
Like, it's silly because it's like, how has it affected you? But it's hard to explain because it's just become this like sometimes I don't reflect on how mindfulness has affected my day, because you don't even realize that, like, you're just checking in with yourself more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's usually one of those moments where you're like, this big stressful thing happened, and I got through it with so much more ease than I would have in the past. It kind of takes those moments where you go, oh, wow, yeah, I have developed better strategies, and this would have in the past like made me have a total meltdown, and now I'm just handling it. And or like with your son, where all of a sudden you recognize that, oh, wow, he's breathing on his own.
And that was like so cute. It was crazy. Matt and I were just like, what is going on? Like, wow, it does work. You know what I mean? But, or students, like, when they're solving problems, how many teachers deal with, like friendship issues or just drama, right? Drama, like, it's always going to be there. That's one of those things as a teacher, you just have to figure it out. Like, you have to deal. But what was interesting, another aha moment to me, was when students would come up and they would say things like, Madam, okay, I've already tried and I've taken some deep breaths. I've gone for a walk. I've sent them a clear message, like all these strategies that we teach them that they've done before now they're coming to see me because they tried it on their own and they just couldn't quite come up with a solution with their friend or friends. And that's what you're there for as a teacher. At the end of the day, you're their support. The fact that their first steps were figuring it out on their own, that told me that they were already self-aware. They already were trying to self-regulate. The emotions were too big. Now they needed backup. And like music to my ears, I'm happy to help.
That's amazing. That's one thing that I thought was really fun when I visited your classroom. I asked your students, how have you been using what you're learning from Educalm in your life, like with your friends or at home? You were already gone. You were already gone for your mat leave. But it was cool to see that, like, they were still totally. They loved Educalm even once you were gone. Like, they had very much internalized the practice and felt that it was their own and important to them. And they had so many examples of how what they were learning in Educalm, they were using it in their day-to-day lives. Examples from when I'm frustrated in the classroom, or when I'm, fighting with a friend, or when I am nervous before my hockey game, or there's just so many examples that it's just really cool to see how what you were doing, the 5-minute audios with just that time for reflection after, translated into them having all these strategies to manage the challenges in their lives. And really that's what we want to do as teachers, right? We want to help our students have a good life. That's the main thing.
and just touching on that too, like, I've done Educalm Classroom for 2 years. I did 2 school years with it. And both years I've had parents reach out to be like, what is this? Email me and say, like, could you give me the link? Like, what are you using? I've had parents share. And it's crazy. Like, I just never really thought of mindfulness at home, but I had a mom send me, and now I can't remember because it's like been too long, but a podcast that she listens to every night. And it's a, mindfulness type podcast with her daughter. So it was like, they were already doing it at home. I never really thought about that. Ask me, for your website and your resources. I've had 2 parents, my end of the year gifts to, like, not this school year, but last year, were picture books. Like, I Am Peace is one of them. the kids were obviously going home and talking to their parents about what they were learning. I'm so thoughtful that they thought to buy me books that went along with things that I was teaching in the classroom, which was like amazing.
That's so great.
But, you know, to hear that it's going at home too is really neat.
Yeah.
So it even just promoted more dialogue and gave me the confidence to talk more about it with parents. Like, I don't ever want to overstep what they're doing at home, but just hearing that they talk about their parents made me more confident to sell it or talk more about it than I maybe would have otherwise.
Yeah. That's one thing
You know what I mean?
that another thing we get a lot of feedback on is like how parents are so happy that teachers are doing Educalm because they're noticing a difference in their child. They're recognizing that their child's, you know, school anxiety or just worries or stresses are being managed by these things that they're learning at school. And yeah, just so much feedback from parents thanking teachers for doing this practice. Cause a lot of times parents aren't sure what to do. They know that their child is struggling, but they're not sure how to support them. So them knowing that that support system is there at school is just alleviates so much worry for parents.
Totally.
So one thing that just to mention for those listening, if you have parents that are asking, like, how can I continue this at home? Just direct them to our free resource, which is educalm.com, and then click on free trial. And then those parents can sign up for that free trial and they get all the audios for the introduction to mindfulness units. So there's 5 2-minute audios and 5 5-minute audios. So that's a lot of content for parents to be able to use at home.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So again, that's just send them to our website, educalm.com, and click on free trial. And in that free trial, you have access to that content forever. It isn't like a 14-day free trial where you get cut off at a certain point. You always have access to that content. So yeah, it can be used for a very long time. Awesome, Jenelle. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience with Educalm Classroom and how you're using it. I think that your insights and ideas and routines with it is going to really help our listeners to figure out how to do this in their own classrooms or tweak what they're already doing. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners before we say bye?
I don't think so. I hope that I was clear, that I didn't ramble forever, but I just think it's important that they understand that if they're not sure if they should like dive into Educalm Classroom or not, to just give it a try. It's 5 minutes. I couldn't say that I bought in from day one. I thought, we'll give it a try. Josiane is a good friend of mine, and I know you guys are both great teachers, so I felt like, it couldn't be steered wrong. But I just think it's a super easy tool. It's very user friendly. It's not daunting at all. All you have to really do is press play. And I feel like, the discussions and things after just really come very like naturally anyways. And I know one question that I had before was like, with the units, what do you start with, where to begin? Because I'm sure you guys have even developed more. We have little while.
We have
how many units?
We have 10 units. So there's a unit for every month of the school year. So you have a practice for every day of the school year. But within those units, it's up to you to decide what order you want to do.
And I think like and I felt like if I were to say to somebody getting started, it can like it is. I felt like I had to like go through the units and really, we're teachers, so you want to like plan. And then as I use it, I realized like it doesn't matter the order. It doesn't matter which one you start with, whether it was growth mindset or gratitude or the 5 senses. Like don't overthink it because they're all really valuable and they're all just talking about really emotions and self-regulation and there's no order to that. So that would be like my one tip. Just give it a try and don't overthink like where you want to go first, or it's not like curriculum where, you have to teach one before the other type thing. And I feel like that kind of stood in my way when I first got started. Like I didn't know where to begin.
That's great advice.
I would just say that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would suggest start with Introduction to Mindfulness, which is which you can access by getting our free trial. So you can get that Introduction to Mindfulness right away before you even purchase the full Educalm classroom membership. And then after that, I mean, you can go in the order that the themes and units are presented, or you can jump around. So if you're like, I don't know which order I want to do, you can just go in the order that it is presented. But if there's a specific theme that you want, you can jump there.
When your students have bought in and they're like, I would always at least, I would do like the first week, we would listen to like a different one, and then we would repeat again the way there's 5.
Yeah, 5 audios.
5 audios, and then, Monday through Friday. And then the next week we would do the 5 again. And it was just interesting because then students start to kind of come see you and say, madam, like, could we do this one again? Or so then I feel like there were months where I had planned to do like maybe start a new unit, and then all of a sudden they were just making requests. So then it was like, okay, well, sure. So that just, told me kind of which ones spoke to them the most as well. So
that's awesome.
That's cute.
Well, thank you so much for all that you've shared. Thank you for sharing your time with us today while your baby's taking her nap.
I know, a good long nap. I wasn't sure. So perfect.
All right. Well, you take care. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hopefully you got as many takeaways and great ideas from this interview as I did. Your exit ticket for today is to go ahead and sign up for our free trial. If you haven't done so already, as I said, the trial never ends, so you have access to it for as long as you want. There's no need to rush. And as Jenelle said, if you're not sure where to start, don't overthink it. Just try it out, see how it goes, and then you'll adjust accordingly based on what you are observing in your classroom for how it's going. Now, if you want more training on how to do this practice in your classroom, we have a training video for you in the free trial. So you can go into it completely equipped and knowing exactly how to start, practice, and how to finish this. It's very clear. So we've got your back every step of the way for this. Go to educalm.com and sign up for the free trial. So that's educalme.com and sign up for the free trial. So when you do that, you have access to the Start Here theme of Educalm Classroom, which gives you, like I said, training for yourself on how to do this in your classroom. And then you also get our first unit, Introduction to Mindfulness, which is going to give you enough content for at least 4 to 5 weeks of daily practice. And if you're loving the free trial and you want more so that you have a practice for every single day of the school year, then you can sign up for an Educalm Classroom membership, which gives you 12 months of unlimited access to all of our Educalm Classroom content, which is going to give you, as I said, a lesson for every single day of the school year. It's ready to use, no prep required. And it's going to help you and your students to thrive in a calm learning atmosphere. So go to educalm.com and get yourself signed up for that free trial, or get a 12-month membership to Educalm Classroom. All right, friends, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or a colleague that you think would get value from it too, and have a wonderful week.